It started with a simple like, then a follow, and before they knew it, Daniel and Anita's marriage was hanging by a thread. Social media had entered their lives as a harmless distraction, but it soon became the unseen enemy. A marriage built on faith was now on the verge of collapse. Was social media truly to blame? Or was something deeper at play? This is the gripping story of a love that almost slipped away, but was it saved in time? Stay with me till the end to find out. Like, share. Divorce? Daniel and Anita had what many would call a dream marriage. They had met in church, their love blossomed during Bible studies, and their wedding was a grand celebration of faith and commitment. They weren't just husband and wife, they were partners in ministry, supporting each other through every season of life. Their love was pure, strong, and deeply rooted in God. Their social media pages reflected the picture-perfect life they led. Sweet anniversary posts, snapshots of Sunday service together, carefully curated couple photos with scripture-laden captions. #blessed, #kingdom marriage, #godly couple. Their followers adored them, leaving comments like, "You two are goals," and "Lord, when?" But behind the filters, behind the flattering comments, something was shifting. At first it was subtle. A missed conversation here, a delayed goodnight prayer there. The warmth that had once been effortless now felt slightly forced. But neither Daniel nor Anita paid attention to the cracks forming beneath the surface. They were too busy maintaining the illusion of perfection online. Little did they know, something dangerous had begun. Something that neither of them could see until it was almost too late. Anita was a social media enthusiast. She loved engaging with Christian marriage pages, following faith-based influencers, and watching videos of couples surprising each other with grand romantic gestures. To her, social media was just a fun way to stay inspired. But over time, she found herself measuring her marriage against the carefully curated relationships she saw online. One evening, as she scrolled through her Instagram feed, she paused at a video of a man who had just surprised his wife with an extravagant vacation to Paris. The wife, overwhelmed with joy, cried happy tears as the video ended with a perfect sunset kiss. Anita sighed and turned to Daniel. "Look at this, babe," she said, holding out her phone. "This is how a real man treats his wife." Daniel glanced at the screen, unimpressed. "That's nice," he muttered, returning to his Bible study. Anita frowned. "That's nice? That's all you have to say?" Daniel sighed and put down his Bible. "Anita, do you really think these people show everything? Social media is just highlights. It's not real life." But Anita wasn't convinced. She wanted more. She wanted what she saw online. What she didn't realize was that her expectations were quietly poisoning her contentment. One evening, as Anita was posting a Bible verse on her Instagram story, a notification popped up, a message request. It was from Coach Michael, a well-known Christian relationship influencer she admired. "Coach Michael, I love your content. You seem like a great woman of God. Let's connect." Her heart skipped a beat. She had been following him for months, taking in his wisdom about marriage and faith. Feeling honored, she responded. The conversation began innocently, a simple exchange of pleasantries and faith-based encouragement. But soon their chats became more frequent. Michael always knew the right words to say. He affirmed her wisdom, spoke about the importance of emotional connection in marriage, and even complimented her heart for God. Meanwhile, Daniel was also venturing into new digital territory. He had started following fitness pages, seeking motivation to stay in shape. That's when he noticed Selena, a fitness influencer who constantly engaged with his posts. "Keep pushing. You're doing great," she'd comment. At first, it felt harmless, just a bit of online encouragement. But then she started DMing him directly. Selena was always positive, always available, always making him feel seen. Unlike Anita, who lately only seemed to compare him to other men. Neither Daniel nor Anita saw what was happening. Their hearts were slowly shifting. The enemy wasn't social media itself, it was the cracks that had already formed in their marriage. And social media was only making them wider. Anita found herself eagerly awaiting Coach Michael's messages. Unlike Daniel, he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts. He praised her wisdom, acknowledged her emotions, and even spoke about how important it was for women to feel valued in a marriage. Every time she received a notification from him, her heart beat a little faster. Meanwhile, Daniel had grown accustomed to Selena's presence. She wasn't pushy, she didn't nag, she just encouraged him. It was refreshing. He found himself checking his phone more often, waiting for her messages. Unlike Anita, she made him feel like he was enough. The emotional distance between Daniel and Anita widened. Their conversations at home grew shorter. Their time together felt forced. The love that once felt effortless now felt strained. One night, as they lay in bed, Anita turned away from Daniel, scrolling through her phone. Daniel, on the other side, did the same. The silence between them was louder than any argument. Neither of them realized that their hearts were no longer each other's first choice. The fights became frequent. Small issues turned into heated arguments. They no longer laughed together, no longer enjoyed each other's company. One evening, Anita snapped. "Maybe we were never meant to be." Daniel's heart dropped. "Are you saying you regret our marriage?" Anita hesitated. She didn't mean it, or maybe she did. She couldn't tell anymore. That night, they slept facing opposite directions, both wondering if their love story was coming to an end. The tension reached its peak. After yet another argument, they made a painful decision. They would separate for a while. Anita packed a small bag and moved in with her mother, while Daniel stayed in their home alone. The silence was deafening. Days turned into weeks, and in their solitude they began to realize the truth. The enemy wasn't each other, it was the world pulling them apart. They missed each other deeply. One day their parents intervened. Both families gathered them together. Anita's mother, a wise woman of faith, spoke with tears in her eyes. Marriage isn't about grand gestures or social media standards. It's about love, commitment, and fighting for each other. Anita listened, heartbroken but enlightened. Maybe, just maybe, their love wasn't lost yet. The days apart felt like an eternity. Anita lay in her childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying memories of their love. How Daniel used to pray over her, how they laughed until their stomachs hurt, how they once fought battles together instead of against each other. Daniel, too, found himself lost in thought. The house felt empty without Anita's warmth, her laughter, her presence. He had spent so much time seeking external validation that he had neglected the greatest gift God had given him: his wife. One evening, Anita's mother sat beside her, holding her hand. "My daughter," she said softly, "marriage is like a garden. If you stop watering it, the weeds will take over. The world will always show you a greener pasture, but the truth is, no grass is greener than the one you tend to." Anita broke down in tears. "I was so blinded by what I saw online that I forgot what I had right in front of me." Daniel's father, on the other hand, called him for a walk. "Son, social media is an illusion. You think you're missing out, but what you had with Anita was real. Fight for your wife before it's too late." That night, as Anita lay in bed, she felt a sudden longing for her husband. Not just the idea of him, but him. She picked up her phone and typed a message, "I miss you." A moment later, Daniel replied, "I miss you more." It was time to come home. Anita stood outside the door of their home, her heart pounding. She hadn't been here in weeks. The house, their house, felt like a distant memory. She clutched her overnight bag, uncertain if stepping inside meant a new beginning or a final farewell. Daniel opened the door, his eyes heavy with exhaustion but softened with something else: hope. "Hey," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," Anita replied. The air between them was thick with unspoken words. They had hurt each other, drifted apart, but the love wasn't gone. It was buried under months of resentment, comparison, and emotional neglect. They sat in the living room, the very place where they had once held hands and planned their future. Now it felt foreign. "I don't want to lose you," Daniel admitted, his voice cracking. "I let social media distract me from what truly matters. Us." Tears welled in Anita's eyes. "I did too. I got so caught up in chasing an illusion that I forgot the real blessing God gave me, you." At this point, if you are new to this channel, kindly like, share and subscribe to be part of this community. They talked for hours for the first time in what felt like forever, stripping away their pride and laying their hearts bare. They apologized, not just with words, but with the sincerity of two souls desperate to find their way back to each other. Daniel reached for Anita's hand. "Let's start over. No more comparisons. No more distractions. Just us the way God intended." Anita smiled through her tears. "I'd love that." That night they prayed together, holding hands like they used to. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like home. Determined to rebuild their marriage, Daniel and Anita knew that change had to be intentional. They couldn't simply apologize and move on. They had to restructure their lives, setting new boundaries and priorities to protect what truly mattered. The first step was cutting off anything that had caused division. Together they went through their social media accounts, unfollowing pages, influencers, and individuals that had planted seeds of discontent in their hearts. No more comparison traps, no more temptation. It was painful but necessary. They also established new rules for their phone usage. No more scrolling aimlessly during meals, no more checking messages in the middle of conversations, and definitely no phones in bed. Instead, they dedicated that time to meaningful talks, reading scripture together, and simply being present with one another. Rebuilding trust took time. Some days were harder than others. There were moments of temptation, times when Anita felt the urge to check up on Coach Michael's content, or when Daniel caught himself wondering if Selena had moved on. But each time they chose each other. They held each other accountable, gently reminding themselves that love was not about perfection but about commitment. They also brought back the foundation that had first united them: prayer. Every night, no matter how tired they were, they knelt together and prayed over their marriage, asking God to heal their hearts and strengthen their bond. Slowly, the walls they had built between each other crumbled, and intimacy began to grow once again. One evening, as they sat on their balcony watching the sunset, Anita reached for Daniel's hand and squeezed it. "I forgot how peaceful this feels," she whispered. Daniel turned to her, his eyes filled with love. "Me too. And I never want to forget again." Laughter returned to their home. The love that once felt strained was now stronger than ever before. Not because they were perfect, but because they had chosen to fight, not against each other but for each other. And this time, they were determined never to let anything or anyone come between them again. Months had passed since Daniel and Anita made the decision to fight for their marriage. They had been tested, stretched, and refined through the fire, but in the end, their love had emerged stronger than ever. It wasn't a perfect love story, no extravagant surprises, no picture-perfect Instagram reels. But it was real. It was raw. And it was theirs. One evening, as Anita sat on their couch, scrolling through old pictures, she realized just how much she had changed. The woman in those pictures had been obsessed with the illusion of perfection, constantly seeking validation from strangers online. But the woman she was now, she knew better. She had learned that love wasn't about grand gestures captured in filtered snapshots. It was about the small, quiet moments that no one ever saw. Smiling, she opened Instagram and began typing a post, her heart full of gratitude. Marriage isn't perfect. It's two imperfect people choosing love daily. Don't let social media fool you. Real love is found offline, in prayer, in patience, and in God. She hesitated for a moment, then hit post. Unlike before, she didn't care about the number of likes or comments. She wasn't seeking approval anymore. She was simply sharing her truth. Daniel walked in and saw her phone in her hand. But this time he didn't feel distant. He didn't feel ignored. Instead, he walked over, sat beside her, and glanced at the screen. As he read her words, a smile slowly spread across his face. "You finally get it," he said softly, wrapping an arm around her. Anita leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. "I do. And I'm sorry it took me so long to realize what truly matters." Daniel kissed her forehead. "We both had our moments. But what matters is that we came back to each other." That night, they didn't need to post about their love. They didn't need a filter or a hashtag to define their relationship. Instead, they curled up together on the couch, laughing, reminiscing, and simply being present with one another. Because at the end of the day, love wasn't about public approval. It was about private commitment. And this time they were more committed than ever. At this point, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, click the subscribe button and smash the notification bell to be notified whenever another video is uploaded. You wouldn't want to miss the next episode of Daniel and Anita's story. The Invited Surrogate. What moral lesson can be drawn from this episode? 1. Comparison is the thief of contentment. Anita's dissatisfaction began when she compared her marriage to the highlight reels of others on social media. Comparison can blind us to the blessings we already have. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. Galatians 6 verse 4. Focusing on what God has given us rather than what others appear to have fosters gratitude and contentment in relationships. 2. Guard your heart against emotional temptations. Both Anita and Daniel allowed external influences to fill the void that was growing in their marriage. Emotional affairs often begin subtly but can be just as damaging as physical ones. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4 verse 23. Emotional connections with the opposite sex outside of marriage can create dangerous attachments. We must guard our hearts against influences that draw us away from our spouse. 3. Social media can be a tool or a trap. What started as innocent scrolling led to dissatisfaction, emotional disconnect, and near destruction. Social media, when misused, can become a tool for deception and temptation. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. 1 John 2 verse 15. Prioritizing online validation over real-life relationships can lead to destruction. Instead, we must focus on nurturing relationships offline, where true love and commitment exist. 4. Marriage requires intentional effort. Daniel and Anita assumed their love would remain strong without effort. But just like a garden, marriage requires daily watering, pruning, and care. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12. A strong marriage is built on constant effort, communication, and a foundation in God. Couples must be proactive in strengthening their bond. 5. Avoid the illusion of perfection. The desire to present a picture-perfect marriage to the world prevented Daniel and Anita from addressing their real issues. True love is found in raw, unfiltered moments, not just in social media portrayals. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16 verse 7. Striving for authenticity rather than perfection allows love to flourish. God values sincerity over appearances. 6. Seek wise counsel and community support. It was only through the intervention of family and wise counsel that Daniel and Anita found their way back to each other. Oh, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. Proverbs 11 verse 14. Oh, seeking wise counsel from godly mentors, pastors, or trusted family members can provide clarity and direction in difficult seasons. 7. Forgiveness and restoration are always possible. Despite their mistakes, Daniel and Anita chose to forgive each other and rebuild their marriage. No matter how broken a relationship may seem, healing is possible with God. Oh, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. Ephesians 4 verse 32. Oh, love is not about never failing. It's about choosing to forgive and fight for each other even after failure. 8. Put God at the center of your marriage. When Daniel and Anita neglected their spiritual connection, their marriage suffered. It was only when they returned to God through prayer and intentional faith-building that their love was restored. Oh, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127 verse 1. Oh, a marriage built on faith and prayer can withstand challenges. Keeping God at the center strengthens love and unity. Final reflection. Marriage is not about grand gestures or social media validation. It's about daily commitment, faithfulness, and intentional love. True love is cultivated offline, through prayer, patience, and genuine effort. Daniel and Anita's story reminds us that even when a marriage seems lost, restoration is possible when both partners choose to fight for each other with God at the center. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get notified whenever a video is uploaded. Watch out for the next episode.